to the bold analysis. Today, the 3rd of April, a day after the two leaders, President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, and Raila Odinga, decided that it is time to clamp down and at least stop fighting so that we can start talking. And the country is waiting for that phase, even though I understand that Raila team are also holding their headline demands, that if not met, they might actually resume those protests after the Easter celebrations. Ladies and gentlemen, the eye of the country and many political observers are questioning the reaction of one Rigathi Gachagua. But I've just captured a soundbite here that opens a little bit, a hint into what is the mood of the mountain, especially coming from a Molo member of parliament, a man that is very close to Rigathi Gachagua. Let me tell you, I want you to listen to his reaction, and this is not a joke, and it didn't come by coincidence. It actually came some few hours before that stepping down. Before that stepping down, that MP was reacting. And I can tell you that yesterday there was a bit of that toning down, but it pointed out to what was happening inside the UDA WhatsApp group. Listen to that here.
Kama baada ya uchaguzi tunasema watu wakae chini Nairobi waongee, basi hakuna haja ya kupiga kura. That if after every election we have to have two people to sit down to decide on the next leadership of this country, then there is no need of telling these people to wake up to vote. Wacha ifike wakati wa uchaguzi, next election, Raila basi wakae na Ruto waongee, basi tuambie tupige kura. Kwa sababu kama tukipiga kura, lazima tena tuongee, why do we spend a lot of billions of shillings kwa mambo ya kupiga kura? Wanasema moderator, wanaongea mambo ya cost of living. Sisi ni wakulima. Mimi ninalima maziwa, mimi ninalima kuku, mimi ninalima mahindi. Mimi sitaki mahindi yangu inunue pesa kidogo. Kama yeye mmoja pesa nyingi kuna hivi. Tupunguze bei. Sisi tulipanda kwa kununua fertilizer shilingi 6,000. Tukapeleka tractor kwa shamba. Tukangoja mwaka mzima ndio tuvune hiyo mahindi. Ukituambia tuteremshe bei ya unga, inamaanisha tuteremshe ile bei ambayo tununulia hawa wakulima hiyo mahindi, na hiyo tutakubali.
That member of parliament is speaking from a clear point of knowledge and is speaking from a perspective. He did not speak just by coincidence. And I want us to interrogate that message, looking at that reaction. That is a message that is most likely was sanctioned from the top leadership, especially the UDA Mount Kenya caucus. But one, he's addressing two things. One, he's addressing a possibility of Raila Odinga and William Ruto being speaking in one voice. That's number one. Number two, he's addressing the cost of living question. Remember, one of the irreducible minimums that Raila Odinga team was speaking about when they went to public was actually was about the unga, the cost of unga. And the government gave what they are doing so far in terms of subsidizing consumption. But that gentleman is simply saying that we cannot sell. And it looks like a contradicting statement, contradicting what the Kenya Kwanza government is speaking about. So they have decided to address those two things. But what he's insisting on is that we should not allow in the east of this country for people to speak after elections. Remember, there is a team that led, there was a narrative that really the supporters bought. We really tried as analysts to debunk it, but at least not many would listen to our voices. That was the narrative that handshake destroyed that government. That was it. So that narrative is what simply is going on here. And just from his perspective, there is some four aspects I am seeing that is going on. It's just showing the kind of scare or the threat value, the threat profile that the UDA Mount Kenya team are trying to see. It's just trying to look at it. They're trying to look at it that way. So there is that which I can make from that perspective. What is scaring the Mount Kenya UDA caucus, especially the caucus around Rigathi Gachagua, is that they had a plan to escalate anti-Raila phobia in Mount Kenya to make sure they knock out competition from the region, because they would actually be comfortable to have intra-competition within the UDA party. And so the only other side, if there was a political formation to be formed, people had made that opinion that probably Azimio la Umoja would actually rival them in the mountain. So this is what I'm saying. These MPs are not, and I want to tell you, they're not pursuing the interest of William Ruto or Rigathi Gachagua. Everyone is just strategizing, how can I get back my seat in the next general election? In fact, MPs are doing two things. One is taking photos and when giving bursaries and, publicizing bursaries. And two, strategizing on how they can get their seats back in 2027, while some few are also doing legislation. But quite a number, legislation has become a secondary job. The first primary job is that bursary, and the bursary and how I'm going to get back my seat. So the Mount Kenya caucus around Deputy President, they were so much interested in continuing to spread Raila phobia. Remember, in the last general election, Raila penetrated the region. You cannot underestimate. Compared to the last previous elections, Raila penetrated that place. Now, as things would go, they've really tried to create an us versus them in the mountain, and the plan was that them would be the Raila's wing. Now, if that is not there, when there is no us versus them, or rather these people working together, mostly you realize that between now to the general election, there will be no antagonism. As in, you will not find a situation where there is the high octane hate and politics against rather defaming Raila Odinga. So that is one of their scares. Number two, I think one thing that has been going on, there is a tool that has been used by influential politicians to regroup and create a caucus around them. That tool is called shareholding group, where you create a perception and you create a narrative that when in terms of jobs, we must give people that voted for us. In fact, we must give our friends and relatives. So one of the scares is here, that when Raila Odinga is in the fold, probably it may not just end at what is being said in the table. For William Ruto to might have succumbed to, might have decided to climb down. That climbing down, there is a high possibility that in the next maybe appointments could be the spectrum of the choice could increase. So they're also feeling threatened that now in terms of even the appointments, the members of the company are feeling like maybe others are also going to get a share of what is going on. Remember, the jobs have been donated and given to regions based on how probably those regions voted for the ruling coalition, and that probably has made many people to benefit. The cost of living question has actually been turned political. Now that is the tragedy of our politics. If there is something that needed a lot of objectivity, was actually the cost of living. We actually needed reasoning in it. I saw David D saying that the opposition needed to provide a bulk of their proposals to the budget estimates and what exactly is going on, so that they provide an alternative to what the Kenya Kwanza is proposing, which to me is a very clear position. But now turning it into trying now to say, and in fact, farmers have been struggling. Even when the prices were down, the farmers were struggling. So I don't know to what extent will we be in a position to make the farmers, the 100, maybe the 10,000 farmers happy, while the whole country is struggling with inflation. Does it negate what the government is doing? From that MP, there is one thing I'm seeing. They're just testing the mood. In the fullness of time, probably in the next 2 weeks or so, you might actually, I foresee a situation where there is some kind of rebellion that will start building, and that resistance will build in within for people who want to create a political narrative, and they want to remove a chunk. They want to create narratives against the status quo. The problem here, there are people that will want to challenge the status quo. To the gamer, I think this is to test the mood. We are yet to see. Let's meet in the next.